Welcome to the Beyond the Vines podcast, where I interview local business owners in Sonoma County to highlight small business and grow our community. I'm your host, Amy Ehlers, a mom, realtor, and Sonoma County native, and I'm excited to connect you to some amazing people in this beautiful area that we call home. Welcome back to the Beyond the Vines podcast. Thank you again so much for listening. I'm having so much fun interviewing all these local business owners in Sonoma County, and I hope you're really getting to enjoy getting to know the people behind these businesses. I'm here today with a really interesting one. Tom Rutledge, the founder of RDMS Group, located here in Petaluma. I was introduced to him by a mutual friend, and I'm so excited to learn more about his business, working with restaurants. It's something I hadn't even thought about, really, the backstory of it all. And so I'm really excited to hear more about what he's going to share with us today about how he helps local restaurants and businesses. So welcome today, Tom.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for coming in. Can you share with us your background as well as the story behind why you founded the RDMS Group and what inspired you to specialize in restaurant-specific accounting and operations?
Absolutely. My undergrad, when I was in school, I had no intention of being in the restaurant business. I fell into it by doing odd jobs like many people do, trying to make some money to go spend during college.
Absolutely.
I entered the workforce in the major financial firms, did internships through college, the hedge fund world with currency trading, and I looked at it and said, there's no passion here for me whatsoever. Yeah. I call it my early life crisis. I packed up, moved to San Francisco, went to culinary school.
Amazing.
I knew I wasn't going to be a cook. I really wanted to pretend I had the chops, but I knew it wasn't what I could do. But it gave me a background, and I spent a couple years working in some Michelin-starred kitchens and some fancy French and Italian spots. Tried to get my chops up, but also quickly realized not the right fit. Loved the industry, but not the right fit. As a passion-centric industry, I definitely didn't want to leave it. It was where my heart was. I found myself in the front of house, managing, serving, bussing, running, just, again, the experience throughout all levels. Serendipitously, a manager I was working for, he was the GM of the space, knew of another restaurant-specific accounting firm, something that hadn't been presented to me before.
Right.
I got hired on there, met my business partner, actually. We got put in the same room, shared an office, and hit it off. We went separate ways after that. He is the tried and true accountant. He is the guru of financial accounting within our firm. He went to do tax returns, worked as controllers in various financial firms. I went back into operations.
Right.
So I found myself, I actually moved back home to New York City, found myself in charge of 15-unit groups, 40-unit groups, just a bunch of different things, and realized we can figure out food, we can figure out design, but we're not really figuring out profitability as a core of these businesses.
Right.
Called my current business partner up and said, we need to solve this. And we started RDMS on that premises. So that was more than 10 years ago now.
Wow.
It's been fun. And our core is we really do take the sense that we are operators. First and foremost, we have owned and operated restaurants. We continue to do so. And we take that perspective. So our feedback isn't you're spending too much on labor.
Because you understand it.
It's we're staffing more bussers than servers, and servers sell things and make us money. How do we modify this? What software are you using? And that's the foundation of our firm is how do we help an operator and really give them a tool that might only belong to the bigger corporate chains, but we've built it for the independents. So we come admin in a box. If you sign up with us, we have the software, the tools, the systems, we bring them all in, and we let managers and owners do the things that they came into the business to do, to create, to manage, to be with guests. We take all the non-sexy stuff.
I was going to say the not fun stuff
not
on that
fun
end.
stuff is
That
all
doesn't sound fun or sexy.
No, but you know, what I love about the restaurant business, if I came up to you and said, do you want to open a steel forging mill?
Right.
You would be, I don't know anything about that. However, if I came up to you and said, do you want to open a bar? Someone's still being like, I love bars. I would love to open a bar, but has the same level of or lack of understanding of what it means to do that. But it is such a passionate and such a creative space that we really appreciate that everyone's going after that, but you have to take the business side. So
absolutely.
That's where we focus.
I love, too, that you have this accounting, management, all of that background, but you've also been in the trenches working in restaurants. You've seen it, you understand it, you know it. Like, that's so key.
The PTSD is still alive.
I was going to say, I was telling you about my catering days. PTSD doesn't even begin to describe.
I actually had one of our chefs and my director of operations at my house last night. We were playing around with dishes and making some stuff. And we were literally talking about, it was just a group of guys who don't do this anymore every day. That's not our full-time jobs anymore. But it was like, do you remember when you used to forget to like fire the dish as a server and now it's 45 minutes before the guy's going to eat food? We live and breathe that. So.
Which I think is so necessary so that you can relate to your clients.
Wildly so.
That's amazing. Very cool. So what services, and we touched a little bit on this, do you provide to your restaurants, and how do these services help them improve their operational efficiency and profitability?
So from a purely accounting standpoint, we do all the accounts payable. So we're talking to the vendors, reconciling the statements, entering the invoices, doing the check runs, making the online payments. All of that comes to us. And, speaking to being in the trenches, a lot of modern quote unquote technologies out there to try to help some things. But in some cases, we found taking the invoice and shoving it in an envelope, and then we send somebody to go get it once a week and bring it back to us, or FedEx sends it to us the next day. It's just one less thing for a manager to worry about.
Absolutely.
So we build on that core concept. We do the payroll processing. So we're monitoring punches. We look at meal break penalties, which is a massive California situation.
That's great that they have another set of eyes on that.
Yeah, it's actually the largest lawsuit in our industry in California. So
that's already a huge potential savings you're offering.
And the state of California has made that as complicated as humanly possible. So we bring that to the table. Workers' comp audits, like I said, if it's not a fun thing to do, it's probably something we do.
You.
Yeah. And then the last part of that is we have 3 departments. So our last department's our senior accounting department, bank reconciliations, credit, all the sales stuff. All of that is compiled so that we can create daily, weekly, and period end reports that are easy. And the last layer is we then take this financial report, and instead of saying, here's 6 pages of financial reporting, we say, let's sit down and talk about this with your management.
Great.
And then operationally, we're trying to make sure that our teams have the tools so by the time they get the P&L, it's old news and it doesn't matter because they've made changes throughout the way.
That's amazing. Are there any particular restaurant types or certain cuisines that you specialize in, or do you work with a diverse range of establishments?
We're all over the place. I would say that the one factor that takes into play is we don't really work with franchisees. We really do focus on the independent. If you happen to have a 10-unit, 15-unit group that you own and operate, that is our bread and butter.
Right.
We also do food trucks, single food trucks and single individuals. So if it's a food and beverage operation, the thing that we don't really do is when there's controls coming from a corporate entity like a franchisor, they have the systems, that we're bringing to the table.
That service necessarily.
It just doesn't fit.
That makes sense.
So we're more of that boutique solution for them.
Fantastic, which obviously there's no shortage of here in Sonoma County. We have the best food.
It is why I moved across the country. Yes.
I mean, I've said this on the podcast before and I'll say it again, but I love traveling. I love going on vacation, but then it's always you get to a certain point and you're like, I want to go home and have the food at home because nothing beats it.
Very, very true.
So restaurant owners often struggle with cost control and budgeting. How can a proper accounting practice and financial analysis benefit their bottom line?
If the accountant is just doing the tax return at the end of the year, they're missing a massive part of their business.
Interesting.
So I'll go so far to say is it doesn't have to be your bookkeeper, but to have somebody on your team who's working to compiling reports, if it doesn't match the P&L, they're wasting their time.
Right.
So if your financial tools aren't providing the roadmap of what to do, you're operating incorrectly.
Right.
And so budgets are difficult. COVID came and basically threw a hand grenade in the project. What's happening post-COVID and all that fun stuff. It's hard, but if you don't have the map, you don't know where you're going.
Right.
That's really, and people think accountants are just good with numbers. It's the language of business. And I think that's what most people fail to understand in this industry. It's kind of like learning Spanish or French. It's not really saying, I'm good at figuring out a percentage calculation. It's, why is your food cost high? Are you priced incorrectly? Are you have a lot of waste? Is a lot of theft? Are you comping the wrong things? Are you selling the wrong things? Is your portion control wrong? Your numbers need to point to where you need to focus on working on the business. So if anyone's endeavoring to say, well, I get that information from my point of sale, are you? Is it reconciled to the bank account? Where's that information coming from? If it is, good on you. Go after it. You've got the right solution. But that's where your accountant should almost be your other manager of the business.
That makes sense. And just the strategizing behind all of that sounds like it's something that you can easily provide. That's brilliant. What are some common financial challenges that you see restaurants facing?
All of them.
Everything.
The short answer to that question is there's a metric that we focus on called prime cost.
Okay.
So this is about to get a little accounting sleepy, but I promise it's brief. It's when you look at your sales and you add up all of your cost of goods, food, beer, wine, liquor, and a beverage, and all of your labor, front of house, back house taxes. Most restaurants, if they can hit 65% cost, meaning they only have 35 cents on the dollar to pay for everything else in their business, they're actually doing pretty good.
Okay.
So if your prime cost is off that metric, you need to focus on that and that alone until you get under 65%, because everything else isn't going to make the same kind of impact. Once we get prime cost figured out, then we start, it's a benchmark analysis. If your rent is more than 10 cents on the dollar, if it's more than 10% of your sales, you should be looking to renegotiate or exit, because unless you have prime costs that are truly remarkable, that is money right off the bottom line.
Interesting. These are some really good points and stepping stones for people to know.
If you're negotiating a lease and you're seeing it north of 10%, it's not, I don't care how romantic it is. It's a canary in a coal mine. Do not sign the lease.
Amazing. That's really good information for people. Thank you for that. So can you discuss the impact of technology on restaurant accounting and operations and how RDMS Group leverages technology to support its clients?
I love this question from a lot of levels because it's still a human problem. We use technology in massive ways. We are directly connected to the point of sale systems, so we know sales and trends and analysis and yada, 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 connected to the banks, connected to the credit cards. It makes our lives easier to get the data into one place.
Right.
But we are not yet at a place where AI can come into a restaurant, because you still get the guy who bought $50 worth of mushrooms handwritten on a napkin from a farmer's market.
Yep.
Those are still problems we deal with.
Yes.
If I don't get the invoice, I can't process the invoice no matter how much technology I have.
Right.
I can do EDI and API connections to vendors, but I still have vendors that use that paper from 1988 with the holes on the side on the printer that is older than I am. Yeah. So you tell them a 3-letter data connection and they look at you like, I don't know what to tell you. So technology helps my team move more quickly, but the team is still the reason the information is correct. So it is a interesting hybrid at this point still.
I love that. And we see that with real estate too. I always say I love all the tech tools that we're seeing. It's super beneficial, but you still need that agent. You need that agent to strategize, negotiate, figure out how to solve any problems. 100%. A computer can't do that for you.
We use 2 phenomenal pieces of software. I am not connected to them other than paying way too much money. But 365, Restaurant 365, and Plate IQ. The problem is, and Toast Point of Sale and all these other guys that are out there, all of them can be phenomenal. There's even food costing software. I have a whole TED talk on inventory at some point, but it would be so boring. But the reality...
Somebody would listen.
Somebody. My wife, out of courtesy, would be the end of that entire audience. But the reality of it is it's the same thing. You can't, in this industry, especially for an operator, you can't let technology become the project. You have to let technology help you finish your project. And I think still a lot of times in the restaurant business, people want to implement a new software. And what ends up happening is the implementation becomes the focus as opposed to getting the food cost down, which is why you were implementing it to begin with.
Right.
So those things are always at a dichotomy of each other. Because in restaurant spaces, more than most, the margins are so thin, you have to be the HR person, the lawyer, the manager, the this, the that, and the other thing. So putting one more hat on to do an implementation is a lot.
Yeah.
And most software out there is actually quite good if you do implementation correctly.
Right.
But how many of us are database engineers while also being restaurant managers?
Exactly.
Not many.
Exactly. Yeah. Piecing together that creative side with the business side is challenging. From
our firm, we have looked high and low. We test things all the time. We have a very tried and true product. Because we own restaurants, we guinea pig ourselves on a lot of things.
Right.
But it's still, it's as good as everybody involved is willing to put the time in.
That's amazing. Really good feedback. Data analytics and reporting are becoming increasingly important in the restaurant business. And we've touched a little on this as well. How do you use data to provide insights and recommendations to your clients?
It's fascinating because there's so much data out there now. You can sometimes get that analysis paralysis.
Right.
And so we really do go, listen, prime cost, like we talked about a few minutes ago. This is where I want your time. And it's specifically in food cost and labor. Rather than take on that large technology thing, let's do these 5 tasks. And then once we get that done, maintain that step. And now let's move on to the next one.
I love that.
So for us, it's really about, there are industry benchmarks where even if you're owning and operating a restaurant right now, my food cost is 35%. I'm doing great. That's the best I've ever done. Is it supposed to be 28? Like what should we do? finding those targets and putting in simple metrics to fix them is just about everything.
That's so interesting. Employee management and payroll are key components of restaurant operations. How do you assist them in handling this? So you mentioned you can totally take over the payroll for them.
We do process the payroll.
Okay.
So we're reviewing punches. We're doing all that kind of stuff. What we teach people to do specifically on labor is, one, treat your people right. California is such a hard place. We have so many more expenses than many other states. We have an expensive labor force. We have to make the best team we possibly can. Yeah. So, restaurants specifically, it's slowing down in January. It's raining like crazy. We're not going to be busy. Cut everybody. Look, I'm the accountant. I always want you to reduce your costs. Right. But if you cut your kitchen so much that half of them quit and you're not going to be able to keep up with business in April, take a more holistic cash flow at the end of the day. You have to be able to afford payroll. I get that. But sit down with the team and talk to them. Hey, guys, we're going to have less shifts over the next month. How do we make this work for everybody? Because we're going to have overtime come May. When we're busy again, or March, what are we going to do? That's number one. The other one is, again, set your benchmarks. What is the job responsibility of a server, of a busser, of a runner, of a host? Do they have the tools to be as productive as humanly possible? We do help with that by saying, you're spending too much on bussers. You don't have enough servers on the floor. Let's look when guests are coming in. Why do we have servers coming in 3 hours before service starts? What are they doing with their time?
Right.
What are your prep schedules? We do that in our operational consulting side of things. That's not necessarily the accounting side. But the other thing is get to your benchmark. So one of the last examples on this one is, if I say you need a 25% labor cost, I don't mean 25 on Monday and 25 on Tuesday.
Right.
I mean, it could be 110% on Monday. It's by the end of the week.
Got it.
And if you're not forecasting your sales and trying to write a labor budget, you're just kind of opening the doors and hoping to make money. So the first step, forecast sales for the week, review labor for the week.
Right. I'm going to throw a question at you that I didn't mention before, but it's in my head right now. Do you have restaurants that come to you that are maybe already struggling, maybe embarrassed with where they're at, and kind of how do you handle that?
Absolutely. I mean, find me a restaurant that's not struggling.
Right.
Yes, would be the short answer. And I wouldn't say embarrassed. I think small business operation is so hard.
Yep.
On every level.
Yep.
And asking a professional who specializes in one thing to help is one of the smartest things and the hardest things for small business operators to do.
Yes.
I need help is, I don't think, said enough.
I agree.
And then I need help and I don't think I can afford it. You don't know till you ask. So it doesn't always have to be. Our accounting clients, we're doing 5 days, 6 days, 7 days a week, every week worth of work. But hey, I need coaching. I think every small business operator should go for coaching.
Yes.
I need to know a benchmark of food cost. That's a 10-minute phone call.
Yep.
Right? That doesn't, you may not be able to afford somebody who can help you fix all the problems, but just what should I be doing
the
is
advice.
A really good start.
Well, I imagine too, with a lot of what you do and helping them, they're ultimately going to be saving money or being more profitable. So then that's like an offset of your cost.
It's my sales pitch.
There you go.
If you're gonna pay me, I better help you make more money.
Exactly.
If I don't, I'm not really the right guy.
Exactly.
And I will say there are a lot of firms that do this, and there are great ones that are out there. And bookkeepers can be, like I said, debits and credits. Here's your tax return, or they could be that really helpful. Hands-on. I need you here kind of situation. So.
Yeah. So that you're taking that load off their shoulders and then also providing them more profitability.
The one thing I will say is we can, like firms like mine, there's a few of us out there who specialize in the way we do. We have pulled back from operational consulting because there is a daily grind. You have to come in and you have to do the work every day. We can't serve the guests.
Right.
We're not going to write your schedule because I don't know that Steve needs Tuesdays off, right? But we can say that you're overscheduling Tuesdays. So those feedback, and like I mentioned before, we bring systems in a box. So we say, hey guys, on Tuesdays, look at these 3 reports and have this 30-minute meeting. On Wednesdays, look at these 2 reports, have this 30-minute meeting. And on Fridays, have your manager meeting. Here's a couple report. All of a sudden, we're hand delivering those reports. They come from automation. And now you're talking about labor costs on Tuesday and food costs on Wednesday and recaps on Fridays. And all of a sudden, your costs are coming in line.
That's incredible. What a service. That's amazing. Can you provide any examples or success stories where your expertise did make a significant difference for a client?
Yeah, this one's really personal to me because I had a client who is now my business partner. We own a restaurant together in San Francisco.
Amazing.
My business partner in the accounting firm, we collectively went into business. He had a brilliant idea. Him and his business partner, the chef, had a beautiful little thing going on in San Francisco, but rough location, rough square footage,
Right.
couldn't get it to pencil. They brought us in. We started working with the menu. They were selling $5 tacos, and we're like, hey, you need to serve 2 tacos with rice and beans and
There you
get
go.
$16,
Up that.
$17. Like you need a real plate going here. And
Yes.
they started to make moves. COVID happened, and they're like, we may leave the restaurant business. Instead, we negotiated a deal in Ghirardelli Square, and we all moved
Amazing.
into there together and took that concept and moved it. And it wasn't just going into business together. It was watching 2 guys run their business their way and then kind of going, all right, we'll buy into the whole structure here. And we're 3 or 4 years strong through COVID, doing
That's
well.
amazing.
And it is putting our money where our mouth is. It is saying, I will happily take any of my clients and say, I love this place. Come check out what happens when you do it the way we do it.
Right. That's amazing. And to make yourself so relatable to your clients in that way. I'm not just telling you I'm doing this as well.
I'm on the schedule call
Yes.
on Tuesdays.
Yes, exactly. And the food cost meeting on Wednesdays.
Exactly right.
What is your vision for the future of RDMS Group, and how do you plan to continue assisting restaurants in their accounting and operational needs?
We adore helping the small business. It is everything we do is a passion project to helping small business. So my business partner, we are entrepreneurial. We're continuing to open restaurants of our own.
Amazing.
We have an amazing operational team, DOOs, chefs, managers, and all that kind of stuff. So that's definitely one of the areas we grow. The accounting firm is the engine that powers all this stuff. We continue our growth. We're very happy with where we are. We really are focusing on our team right now. COVID was not fun for anybody.
Right.
Systems changed, all that stuff. We're a 12-year-old startup, as
Amazing.
many small
Yep.
businesses are. You never
Yeah.
stop working on yourself. We're looking for clients that really, the change is, to be blunt, when we opened the business, if you were willing to work with us, we wanted to work with you.
Yes,
And,
of course. Yeah.
okay, I'm so glad
getting
you called
started.
me. I will do whatever you want any way you want to.
Yep.
Now we are really looking for those restaurants that go, I'd really like your help. And though helping people is where we get excited, having them buy into the fact that we know what we're doing gets us really excited. So RDMS being a small boutique restaurant accounting firm, we do believe if you get too big,
Yes.
you lose the direct connection with the client.
Yes.
We're hyper focused on making sure that if we add a client, nobody else suffers from doing so. That's really where we're focusing all of our time. We are also opening up a technology side to fix some of the problems we see, like meal break penalties or like other things, food cost. We're trying to find restaurant solutions that real restaurant people can use. So
That's amazing.
we're building a few things on that side too.
Congratulations. I love too that you're kind of at that point in your business too where you can say, okay, this client is the right fit for us, or, strategize in that way and prioritize.
Knock on wood.
I'm going to keep knocking. Coming off of business for a minute, what are 3 fun facts about you personally?
Ooh, I am a car guy, and rebuilding things
Oh.
is like if I had free time, that's what I would continue doing with it.
Very cool.
I have many things that aren't working in my garage right now, which is half the fun. My dog is my center of my universe. I love my wife very much, but
Dog comes first.
dog is always primary. And
I think my husband may agree with you on that end.
yeah,
as well.
one of my dog's paws is tattooed on my leg. Like it's
Yeah.
center of the universe. And then food is not a business alone for me. I am one of the fortunate people that pursue a passion every single day. So if there's something to go eat someplace, I will go.
I was gonna
I'm
say-
in. This is what I do. So
I'd tell you about some restaurants here, but you are literally in the office right behind us, so you know all the good ones.
I actually make it a point to make sure I'm eating lunch somewhere here 5 days a
love
week
that.
and dinner 3 to 4 times a week. Like spread the love to the small businesses, food or
Yes.
otherwise, is so necessary if you're going to be a member of the community. And it is a bit of a luxury to be able to say that, but even just getting a drink or spending a time or getting an appetizer, you don't have to go in and buy a full meal.
Right.
But showing some love to the local community goes a long way. And it's,
agree.
again, not just food. Go buy spices, go
Yes.
buy pillows. I
Yes.
don't care what it is. Just go out and
I'm going to say because of the office's location, that's how I justify all my spices and pillows and drinks.
I named all the things on the road right
you
here.
Nailed it. Spice Queen's right across the street. Yeah. That is how I justify all of it. That's amazing. So towards the end of each episode, I like to ask, is there anyone that's helped you in your career that you want to give a shout out to?
I've had so many mentors. I have been lucky. I have been choosing. My job right before I started my company was with a gentleman named Mike Rapoli. He needs no introduction. He is a wildly successful man who is just one of the most brilliant operators I've ever seen. his brands would include Vitamin Water,
Wow.
Pirate's Booty,
Wow.
Body Armor.
Amazing.
He is fascinating and amazing. He's the first person where I said, "Hey, I'm gonna quit," and he yelled at me for an hour. He changed a lot about my life in a lot of different ways and how I pursue things. Khalid Leilu is a guy who was my first manager in the restaurant space.
Wow.
Very, very warm appreciation for him, and countless people. John Keith, he's actually a family member, but he's another mentor who has been guiding me since I was a stupid fraternity boy in college and keeping me on the right path.
Thank goodness for people like that.
No, he's been a godsend. So.
That's amazing. Oh, I love that. And I hope they hear this and you can hear those shout outs. Finally, if any restaurants locally want to use your services, where can they find you?
Best place for us, we are an accounting firm, so we're not great on social media. We're working on figuring that out, but no one follows the accountants. But our website is www.rdmsgroup.com.
Perfect.
We have a contact form there. My email is my first name, tom@rdmsgroup.com. We love talking to all operators.
Love it. That's fantastic. Well, thank you for all you do. I think this is such a interesting side of the restaurant business that isn't often thought of. So by those of us that eat at restaurants, I'm sure the people that work there.
You don't want to think about this part. This just needs to work.
No,
yes.
I mean, it's true. Yeah. So it's an amazing service that you're offering everybody. So.
Well, and thanks for doing this. Highlighting Sonoma is awesome.
Oh,
so
I love it.
Really
I love being able to do this and feel very fortunate to get to meet so many different people every week. It's so great. Fun. So yeah, well, thank you so much for coming in, Tom. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. If you like what you hear, please be sure to like and subscribe, learn more about Sonoma County and all that we have to offer here.